Can comp tickets be more profitable than paid tickets for your B2B conference? We're going to find out today on this week's Run of Show. As the CEO of a software business, I get a lot of cold emails, and I rarely open them. But a couple weeks ago, I got one that I just had to open, and it said, "Will you be our guest to our upcoming conference?" Now, I opened the email, and it was relatively short, and it just said, "We'd love to comp you some VIP tickets." So I said yes, and the person who had emailed me was very excited and said, "Great," and I said, "Hey, can I invite a +1?" And they said yes. And then they sent another email and said, "Hey, by the way, we should meet at the conference." I said, "Terrific." And then they sent another email and they tried to schedule a demo with me before the conference happened. And this is when I started to really understand what they were doing. This was part of an outbound cadence that they were using, and they were using the comp tickets as bait to get me, the CEO, not just excited about the conference, but excited about their product. So then I started asking many of our clients, do they use comp tickets? Do they give away tickets to their B2B conferences, and why? The first one's pretty straightforward. Event marketers were using these comp tickets as what they defined as whale bait. And this was the idea that they were able to get people who represented higher dollar value in the room when they offered a comp ticket. A CEO or a CMO would actually pick up their head for a very expensive but free ticket. Changing the relationship was a reason we heard quite often. Often when we're reaching out to our customers or clients or prospects, we're reaching out and asking for money. This is an opportunity to begin the chain of reciprocity and actually give them something, especially if it's the first time we're reaching out. The best reason is that it actually has the opportunity to generate more profit. Now, when I heard this, I was really excited because I always wonder, how many tickets should I comp to my next event? And how will the numbers eventually shake out? And after doing a lot of interviews with event marketers, I've learned that it indeed can be a lot more profitable. But I had to see for myself, so what we did was we developed a bunch of scenarios, and I want to walk you through one right now. So let's see if we can prove this. Let's pretend that we're talking about a B2B marketer named Melissa, who is hosting a user summit. It's their annual user summit, and she's deciding how many comp tickets she should give out to hopefully attract more quality clients and prospects. Okay, so in scenario one, let's assume she's comping 0 tickets. And let's assume that her production cost on the event is about $100,000. Let's say that she's going to sell the tickets for about $500, and there'll be about 200 attendees at the event, and she's going to sell all the tickets. It's going to completely sell out, and so she's going to make about $100,000 in total ticket revenue. But of course, the reason that we're hosting this is to drive sales, so let's look at how the funnel could impact the actual net gains on this event. Now, in a healthy B2B business, you're usually looking at an opportunity to close ratio of about 15%. So we're just going to add that in here. And let's just assume for this event, we're going to see about 10% of the attendees that attend actually turn into opportunities, be them new expansion opportunities or prospects that become opportunities in the pipeline. So we're going to call this 10%. Okay, now let's run the numbers. So if she has 200 attendees and they're going to convert to opportunities at 10%, that's going to be 20 attendees. Let's assume that her average contract value is about $25K. In that scenario, we're looking at a $500,000 opportunity pipeline as a result of this event. And then if we run that through a 15% opportunity to close ratio, we're looking at about 3 deals. That's about $75,000 in net new opportunities closed, right? So actual dollars in the bank. So that's what the net profit is on this event, $75,000. Not bad. Okay, but now let's walk through scenario 2 where Melissa's actually comping, let's call it about half the tickets. Cool? Okay, so in order to do this right, we have to make sure that we're keeping a lot of the variables consistent, so we're comparing apples to apples. So let's do a lot of the same things. We're gonna keep it so that Melissa is still spending $100,000 on the event. Let's say there's still 200 people attending. Tickets are still $500. And as I said, this time we're actually going to comp half the tickets. So we're only going to sell 100 tickets. So jumping to the bottom again, that means we're going to sell about $50,000 worth of tickets. Still not bad, but it's only covering about half the cost. But this is what we found. If you're hosting an event and you're being really targeted and you're doing a lot of outreach with these comp tickets, you can actually fill that second half of the room with much more qualified leads, many more qualified attendees. And as a result, we've seen that the attendee to opportunity ratio increases substantially if you play this game. So in this scenario, let's pretend that the opportunity ratio actually jumps to 25%, from 10 to 25%, and we'll keep that opportunity to close ratio consistent at 15%. Okay, now let's run these numbers. So with 200 attendees, now we're looking at 50 new opportunities in the pipeline. At a 25K ACV, we're looking at about $1.25 million of opportunities generated as opposed to $500,000, more than double. And we're eventually, with that 15% opportunity to close ratio, we're looking at 7.5 new deals in the bank. That's more than $180,000 of new business as a result of the event. And despite the fact that she only sold $50,000 worth of tickets, the net profit on this is $137,000, right? Pretty good. Now, look, I want to walk through a couple vital considerations if you're considering comping tickets. Because as you can see here, we're working with a lot of assumptions. But I want to kind of show you the major levers here. So major lever number one is, can you assume that your percentage of attendees to opportunities is going to increase if you comp tickets? What I mean to say is, do you think you can fill the room with a better attendee list that are more likely to turn into actual revenue? If you think so, make an assumption. In this last formula, this scenario, you saw we assumed that it would jump from 10 to 25%. I leave it to you to determine what percentage you think you can drive it to if you had higher quality attendees. The second vital consideration here is, what is your ACV? Now, in our scenario, we talked about a 25K ACV, and that's great. That's a nice ACV. And candidly, if you've got that average contract value, you have to comp tickets. It is a no-brainer. And if you've got $100,000 as an average contract value, it is really a no-brainer. But what we have found is that if your average contract value is about $15,000, it might not make sense. You really want to be above $15,000 for comp tickets to make sense for you. And last but not least, you have to ask yourself, what is your sales cycle? And are you willing to wait for a good amount of time to actually see that revenue recognized? You know, we've been looking at our data, and especially for some of these larger user conferences, you can see a sales cycle be about a year. That means that from the time that that person became an opportunity to the day that that dollar is deposited in your bank account, it could be a full year, if not more. And so you just have to ask yourself, are you willing to wait that long? As opposed to getting the little dollars in now with the ticket revenue, can you wait for a much larger contract in a year or more? So those are the three vital considerations. Can you increase percentage? Do you have the ACV to accomplish this? And can you wait? And do you understand your sales cycle at all? So as you're planning your next B2B conference and considering how many comp tickets to sell versus how many tickets you should sell for full price, I'd urge you to consider some of these numbers. We're gonna have this formula up on our blog, and you can download it and you can play with your assumptions internally. It's definitely at least a healthy exercise to try to run some of these numbers. But as I said, we found that this can be an extremely lucrative effort. And while it's not always straightforward if and how some of these deals will close, no matter what, you're going to be generating a lot of goodwill and building a lot of great relationships with your clients and prospects by offering them a free ticket to your next event. Okay, that was a lot. I really appreciate you sticking with me. I think we got through it, and I expect a comp ticket as a result of all of that hard work I just did. Regardless, please check out our next run of show. We're going to be diving into some incredibly nerdy and heady event topics, and I will see you the next time. Thanks a lot. Craving more event content? If so, subscribe below and you can check out more episodes of Run Up Show Weekly.